President Trump's travel ban expected to face legal challenges after it bans nationals from 12 different countries coming into the U.S. But this time around, it is believed the ban will have an easier time holding up in court. One former Cornell professor telling the Wall Street Journal, quote, "They're basically following the Supreme Court's decision in 2018 that as long as the president can show some reasons why a country was put on the travel ban, that would probably be legitimate under the very loose bona fide legitimate reason test. All presidents have wide discretion when it comes to immigration and national security."
Here to explain is former federal prosecutor Andrew Cherkasky. Andrew, good morning to you. So that's the big question of the morning. Will this travel ban that the president implemented yesterday face legal challenges, considering the Supreme Court gave it the green light in 2018 during his first term?
Well, I think President Trump is fixing some of the mistakes that were made in the first term. Specifically, you'll remember famously that he called it then a Muslim travel ban, and the focus was really religious-oriented in a lot of what he said in the press and in the media. And so what he has now done is he has essentially expanded that ban to 12 countries, and it no longer focuses in any respect on the religious elements. And there's some exceptions that are very narrow in there that, again, go kind of along with what the Supreme Court said just a few years ago in the last administration. This round, I don't see him really having any issues with this travel ban taking effect or staying in place for the long run.
Yeah, I don't mean to oversimplify this, but literally the label is what potentially did this thing in the last time, calling it a Muslim ban. Remove that label, take out some of the other potentially derogatory language, make it more broad, and it has a really good chance of getting through, specifically on the logic front, Andrew, because from a precedent and a logic perspective, if Trump can prevent people from coming in on national security grounds, looking ahead to other battles, why can't the president then kick out similar people, similarly situated people, on similar legal grounds of national security?
Well, I think that that's one of the key focuses of this nearly first 6 months of President Trump is that particularly with regard to foreign relations, and that includes immigration for those in the country or coming into the country, or us ultimately deporting people who are in the country in a problematic fashion, that President Trump and the executive branch, frankly, has very wide discretion and almost unilateral authority in those types of foreign policy decisions in order to protect our national defense. And it makes good sense because those decisions have to be made discretionarily, and they have to be made quickly often. And it is not something that we have the ability to essentially lean back and let Congress take their time with. So President Trump, I think, is playing a very smart and very legally sound playbook in using the executive branch to make these discretionary calls on those things that keep our nation safe.
Well, let's talk about what's going on college campuses, because yesterday a judge blocked President Trump's ban on foreign students attending Harvard. And the Ivy League is claiming the move is one of legal retaliation, saying, quote, "The president has not suspended entry for any class of aliens. To the contrary, non-immigrants may enter the country unabated. As long as they do not attend Harvard, the president's actions thus far are not undertaken to protect the interest of the United States, but instead to pursue a government vendetta against Harvard." Where do you see this one going?
Well, I think that by this point, when the district courts rule against President Trump, we should take that as a good sign that he's ultimately going to win. The district courts obviously have really failed almost entirely to have these very controversial decisions against Donald Trump, where they step into the seat of the executive. The Supreme Court has not been favorable to these district courts, I think, at all. This ruling is no different. The idea here from Harvard being that somehow President Trump is stomping on their First Amendment rights. I'm not sure what exactly their First Amendment right that they're trying to assert so strongly is here, that they can have a school that engages in prejudice against those who actually are coming in, or anti-Semitism on its campus in the remarkably dangerous way that they have and that they've endorsed so strongly over the last few years here. When you really kind of get to the bottom of all of this, I think that the executive has an incredibly important function in making sure that those students who are coming into our country and going to our top institutions advance our national security interests, not harm them or jeopardize them. And that's exactly what President Trump, I think, is doing here, and it'll be upheld.
All right, Andrew Cherkasky, live for us. Andrew, thank you so much.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.